Hello and welcome back to another video. Today it is cold and gray out, one of those rainy winter days, so I thought I would wear this bright yellow sweater, just to cheer things up for us a bit today. And it is Messy Hair Monday, I like to say, so waiting a few days till we wash the hair again. I only wash my hair one day a week, or I try to only wash it one day a week, and I've been pretty consistent at it. When you have long hair, you go through a lot, and I mean a lot, of conditioner if you wash your hair more than once a week. And of course, it dries it out and all that good stuff, so I try to stick to once a week, but I'd love to know how often you wash your hair. Let me know down below. So today we are going to be discussing how to get more nutrients in your diet, both macro and micronutrients, and why you should care. My hope is always that you guys can take away at least one thing that is helpful from today's video, or at the very least feel entertained. In part one, we will be discussing the nutritional factors that affect the quality of your food. Part two is discussing macro and micronutrients and why you need to think about both. And part three are my personal tips and tricks for easy implementation. Gotta stay hydrated, guys. All right. Let's get things situated here. And I will be referencing some of my notes that I jotted down just so I don't forget anything. So first, we have the ecosystem of your food. This would be the growing conditions such as the soil health of plants and the food and living conditions of animals. What is your food's food? Soil depletion leads to a less nutrient-rich crop, and a healthy animal leads to healthier milk, eggs, and meat. An easy example is eggs. Egg yolks from hens that are not fed corn and soy have a healthier fatty acid profile, such as lower linoleic acid and omega-6, and have higher omega-3. So in this example, you can see how what the hen eats directly impacts the nutritional profile of the yolk and the final product. Next, we have how your food is prepared / cooking and preparation methods. Examples would be roasting, steaming, frying, baking, fermenting, sprouting, soaking, or even consuming your food raw. You see, all these things can impact the bioavailability and compounds in your food. Bioavailability has to do with what percentage of a nutrient your body can actually absorb and use instead of just pass through your body. An easy example to understand this is heme versus non-heme iron. We know that heme iron is highly absorbable to the body compared to non-heme iron, so it is critical for preventing iron deficiency. You can get heme iron from animal-based sources such as red meat, fish, poultry, and you can get non-heme iron from plant-based sources such as legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and a variety of different vegetables, or even something like chlorella or spirulina. Now that you understand bioavailability, we can start to look at cooking and preparation methods and see that they are not all created equal if we are trying to maximize nutrient absorption in our meals. One good example is soaking and fermenting, which breaks down the cell wall and reduces anti-nutrients like phytic acid, making the beneficial nutrients and minerals available for your body to utilize. And lastly, for things that will impact the quality of your food, I put down contaminants. And this could range from insecticides, pesticides, vaccines, GMOs, microplastic, arsenic, anything along those lines that could be considered a contaminant. Commercial farming practices leads to unhealthy living conditions for animals, where vaccines are required to keep animals alive, and genetically engineered crops are created to withstand harsh insecticides and pesticides, while every other living thing is killed around it, including honeybees and other important pollinators. And because commercial farming leads to soil depletion and more toxins and chemicals for everyone, we have somehow created this situation where we have more and more food than ever, and yet less and less nutrition. Okay, now we are going to move on to part two, which is understanding macro and micronutrients and why you really want to be thinking about both. Macronutrients traditionally consist of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, but I like to include fiber in this category as well because I think it is really one of those things we should be thinking about when it comes to putting together our meals and when it comes to grocery shopping. I will quickly cover each macronutrient and kind of why your body needs it and why it's beneficial. So first we have carbohydrates, and they're your primary energy source for both your brain, your muscles, and often include a lot of important micronutrients if you are sourcing them from whole grains, fruits, vegetables, or dairy. Then protein is very essential for repairing tissue, building and maintaining muscle, hormone regulation, very, very important. Sometimes we miss that. And why protein is often so emphasized over other macronutrients is because most Americans simply aren't getting enough, especially from quality sources that have a high DIAS score, which can help indicate how well your body digests and absorbs the essential amino acids in your protein. And if you're not familiar with the DIAS score, you can definitely look it up. I'm not going to be going into it in this video, but it essentially has to do with the quality of the protein that you are consuming and simply how bioavailable it is. So how much of that protein that you're consuming is your body actually able to absorb and utilize. And then lastly, we have fats. Fats are a very concentrated energy source, which is very necessary for cell structure, nutrient absorption, and hormone production. And lastly, we have fiber and water. Not traditionally considered a macronutrient, but something that is still very important and is something you should prioritize for healthy digestion and for proper detoxification. So let's quickly cover micronutrients, which consists of vitamins and minerals. So first we have water-soluble vitamins, which means we don't store them as easily, so deficiency is more likely. Water-soluble vitamins include vitamin C and all B vitamins. B vitamins are essential and include B1, thiamine, B2, riboflavin, B3, niacin, B5, pantothenic acid, B6, pyridoxine, I think that's how you pronounce that. And then we have B7, known as biotin. I'm sure you are familiar with that. We have B9, which is folate, and B12, cobalamin. B vitamins are crucial and they play a very important role in energy production, cellular function, formation of red blood cells, maintaining brain function, and are very important micronutrients in pregnancy, since B9 is specifically vital for cell division and DNA synthesis. Now, vitamin C is a very powerful antioxidant. It protects cells from damage, supports the immune system and collagen production, which helps with things like wound healing, since it helps form connective tissue like skin, bones, and cartilage. You rely on getting vitamin C either from your diet, ideally, or from supplementation. Vitamin C can also play a very powerful role in aiding iron absorption. So if you're a lady out there and you're trying to replenish your iron stores, I definitely would advise pairing your iron-rich foods with vitamin C-rich foods. Adding just a squeeze of lemon to your red meat could be very beneficial. Now, moving on, we have fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, E, and K, which just means they require dietary fat for proper absorption and can be stored in the body for longer periods of time. These vitamins really help support overall health, anything from eyesight to bone strength. And to finish off our micronutrients, we have minerals. Microminerals include calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium, so kind of your typical electrolyte blend, except for calcium is normally not included in that. And then of course we have trace minerals, and trace minerals just mean you need less, you need a smaller amount of that mineral. And this could include things like iron, zinc, iodine, copper, selenium, manganese, etc. So the moral of the story here is we need to source our food well, eat enough, and eat variety. If you are eating nutrient-dense whole foods and are getting enough protein for your weight and size, it is actually very hard to overeat because you will likely find that you actually are very satiated. In fact, if you're anything like me, you may find that you need to actually train your appetite to eat more food. And of course, the overall amount of calories and carbohydrates that your body needs may depending on your activity level. If you're super active, you're gonna probably need more calories and more carbohydrates possibly, and it could even change depending on where you are in your cycle. All right, moving on to part 3, we have my tips and tricks for implementation. This is my favorite part, and I really probably didn't think of everything, but I feel like I got the basics down that I wanted to, and this doesn't include actual recipes, which I might do at a later video, but it kind kind of does cover the basics. So number one, for part 3, we have eat in season / eat variety. Now, it may be hard for you to know what's in season if you've never gardened or you're just simply not familiar with this. And of course, where you live can really dictate what you have available to you as well. So I am just going to give you some examples of what I personally do. So in the spring and summer, I can grow lots of fresh herbs, cucumbers, tomatoes, and fresh salad greens. So I like to do a lot more fresh salads in the spring and summertime. But in winter, I can buy squash, sweet potatoes, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, things that are more hearty. So in the winter, we do a lot more roasted vegetables. Now, when it comes to eating variety, a common saying you may hear is eat the rainbow. But that can actually be quite overwhelming if you think that means you need to have a rainbow on your plate at every single meal. Instead, think of it like this. If you were to line up all the foods you ate in a week or even a month, then it would create a beautiful rainbow of color. This is just a helpful visual when you are planning meals and shopping, and might help you pick a wider variety of ingredients and produce. I feel like a lot of us have our safe foods or the foods that we like and the foods that we don't like. But if you can try to work past that mindset and try to eat a much bigger variety, it is really, really good for your health and can even make it easier to go shopping, since the range of fruits and vegetables that you are familiar with and know how to prepare can really expand. Variety ensures that we have a full spectrum of essential nutrients, antioxidants, and fiber. You see, no single food is going to have all the nutrition that you need. I think sometimes when we think of variety, we just think of fruits and vegetables, but we should also be thinking about grains, seeds, and legumes. For example, most people you see just think of hot oatmeal when they think of a hot cereal option. But there is millet, buckwheat, and many other grains that provide unique and special nutrients and minerals that are crucial, and so rotating things like that in can be very, very beneficial. And of course, I like to soak my grains if I can, and I find it's very easy. It's not that soaking your grains is hard to do. You just have to think, okay, am I gonna want cereal tomorrow, or do I want some type of grain or legume? And then I'll just soak it the day before, and it takes me like literally a couple seconds. So I do like to soak my grains in water and a dash of apple cider vinegar, and that just really helps with proper absorption of all those amazing minerals and micronutrients. And since I'm paying for the food and I'm taking time to make it at home anyway, I figure I might as well maximize the nutrient absorption as much as possible. And on to number 2, we have stop categorizing certain ingredients / foods into certain dishes or meals. Examples might be eggs are only a breakfast food, or sauteed or roasted vegetables is something I would only make for dinner and not for breakfast, or even that certain meals have to be savory and other meals have to be sweet. If you can, try to first see your meal as nutrition. How do I create 3 meals a day that provides the optimal macro and micronutrients for me and my family's needs? If you can reframe it that way, it will really help you just when it comes to being very specific about what foods you eat when and what types of dishes you have when. All right, number 3, we have try to keep your pantry, your refrigerator, and your freezer all stocked with healthy staples. An example here would be keeping sardines in your pantry, keeping frozen broccoli in your freezer, or even keeping pre-soaked chia seeds or pre-soaked flax meal in your refrigerator, so you can quickly add nutrients to a meal or quickly grab a healthy protein source in case you're ever in a pinch. I personally like to always keep a lot of meat in my freezer. I like to buy it in bulk if I can and just stock the freezer with good healthy meat sources. I like to keep my refrigerator stocked with yogurt, cheese, and eggs. And then of course I go shopping for more perishable items like veggies, fruit, fresh herbs at least once a week. Another tip I have regarding shopping and restocking is when you feel like you're at that point where you really need to go shopping again, if you can, try to go one extra day before you do your restock, as this really motivates you to use up different ingredients, even be more creative with a dish, or even just try something new that you normally would never think of. Okay, and my last tip and trick, number 4, we have identify your nutritional gap/weakness and focus on it till you see long-term change or have formed a new habit. And I think this is crucial because we're all different. We all have different weaknesses. And so if you can identify yours and really just focus and hone in on that until you've created a brand new habit and you're used to that change that you've implemented, that will be very, very helpful just in your overall journey of trying to eat more nutritiously and really getting as much bang for your buck as possible. Examples might include not eating enough. This would be like not getting enough calories in. That could be your weakness, or even just skipping meals. That was me for a very, very long time. I would skip meals and I was just simply not getting enough nutrients in. I wasn't eating enough. And this was primarily due to work, being I was kind of a workaholic, and so I wouldn't stop to eat. So for me, that was one I really had to work on. But for somebody else, it might be eating too much. So you might be snacking all day. And this can really mess things up because if you're snacking all day, you're not really hungry for that nutritious, nutrient-dense meal that you're prepared for yourself. For some people, it's not eating enough meat. I think that sourcing your meat's really important, but meat has so many important macro and micronutrients. It's obviously full of very bioavailable protein, which is so important for your body. And then of course it has very important B vitamins, iron, things like that. And so for some people, I know I hear they just don't like meat, and so they don't tend to eat it enough. So if you're trying to change that habit, it might be the thing you want to focus on. For others, they love meat, but they don't eat enough vegetables. They're not getting enough fiber and nutritious vegetables in their diet, so that might be what they need to focus on. Another really common one is being really picky or being scared to try new flavors. I think I've come across this quite a bit as an adult, where you just notice people, they have a very narrow list of foods they want to try or eat just because they are picky and they don't like trying new things. And so if this is you, it's something worth working on, I think, because it will really open up a whole world of options for you, nutritious options for you. And so that may be one you would want to work on if you relate to that at all. And then another one would be not getting enough fiber. If you don't think you get enough fiber, if you maybe track your micronutrients for a week and you're like, oh my goodness, I eat plenty of protein, I eat plenty of fat, but I don't get enough fiber for healthy digestion, you might want to focus on that. So what are ways I can up my fiber intake, whether it's eating more fruits and vegetables, which is always great. Maybe you're going to soak some chia seeds and start adding those into your yogurt, or flax seeds, things like that. Another one is not drinking enough water. That's a weakness for some people, and it's not really having to do with your meals and your diet, but it is a very important one, so I thought I'd mention it. Really making sure that you are hydrated. Another weakness might be consuming way too much caffeine. Too much caffeine, I think most people know why you don't want too much caffeine. It can disrupt sleep, it can increase blood pressure, and it can actually even suppress your appetite, which is not good. We don't want you to be drinking caffeine to get through your afternoon or even get through your day, and then you're having your appetite suppressed and you're not eating enough. Another example would be eating too many sweets or desserts, just over consuming sugar. If that's your weakness, I think it's definitely worth working on. I think the best way to tackle that would be really starting to eat nutrient-dense meals and getting enough fat and enough protein and enough fiber in your meals, because I personally find that if I'm very satiated and well fed, I don't have room for things like sugar very much. I mean, once in a while I'll crave something sweet, but for the most part, I don't, because I'm full. I've eaten enough and I'm not having that hungry sweet craving. And then another really common one these days is relying on processed food in order to get your meals in. Instead of learning to use simple, whole, nutrient-rich ingredients ingredients to simply put a meal together. And so if that's you, that might be something you want to work on. I'm sure there's others, but I think that is a great tip. Just identifying your own personal weakness and just working on it until you've created a new habit for yourself. All right, that is it for today's video. I hope this was helpful and you found at least one thing or one takeaway, something that stuck out to you that will hopefully help you have more nutritious meals. Comment below, let me know if anything here resonated with you or if you have any tips for me, because I would love to hear them. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a lovely day. Bye.